car was speeding along. But the driver suddenly fell asleep. It turns out he has a strange disease. He can fall asleep anytime, anywhere. In a lift. Sleeping on a tower crane. He sleeps sitting down, he sleeps standing up. His name is Benno. He doesn't have a real job. He earned his living by petty theft and robbery. That day he fell asleep again while waiting for the underground. He scared the hell out of a passerby. When Benno opened his eyes, he was in the hospital. The doctors had just done a CT scan on his brain. The results were bad. A brain tumor. The doctor thought he'd tell his friends and family. He thought Benno would cry and cry. But he fell asleep. He ran into a fellow patient who was also about to jump. In the course of our conversation, Benno learned that Andy had a lung fiber. Benno learned that Andy had pulmonary fibrosis. As long as he suffers from this disease, he has no immunity. The slightest cold can kill him. And he has to wear an oxygen mask at all times. The two of them had a nice chat. Forgetting they're here to jump off a building. The man came to the bank to get a loan. When the last step is almost taken, Andy felt like he was dying. She grabbed her oxygen mask. So they were kicked out. Then they came across a zero down payment shopping mall. And they sold it. Soon they bought a sports car. And they're on the highway. And then Benno got sick again. He suddenly fell asleep. Andy was scared to death. Luckily, he woke Benno up in time. After a day of partying, Benno wanted to say goodbye to his daughter. So the two of them grabbed their oxygen tanks and headed out. But Andy was a coward. Insects scare him. He couldn't sleep at night. He wouldn't stop talking about it. So Benno drove the car to the construction site. He forced Andy to take him up to the tower crane to practice. He even jumped up and down. And Andy was shaking in his boots. But he didn't jump twice. Suddenly Benno got sick again. Luckily, one of his legs was hooked. Andy tied him up with a belt. Benno hung there all night. It was only when the workers came to work the next day that he was rescued. Andy almost fell asleep while driving. He told Benno to keep an eye on the clock and change his oxygen tank. Benno agreed. But when he woke up, he was suffocating. Benno was asleep. Luckily, he didn't die from lack of oxygen. He got out of the car to take care of his emergency. And then he took in the beautiful view. Wait a minute. What's that? Suddenly he realizes a lion is staring at him. He's scared out of his wits. He gets up slowly and prepares to run away. But the lion gets up too. He crouches down. He couldn't breathe a word. He saw the lion coming towards him. He could only close his eyes and let it happen. But the lion didn't come to eat him. It came to pee. And then he covered it up with a little soil. Looking at the back of the lion, it went away. Andy was very excited. He rushed back to the car and told Benno about this amazing experience. He stood on the sunroof and felt the relief of the aftermath. And then they realized there was a kid in the car stealing. Andy was screaming in terror. And after a few words, they decided to take him in. They decided to take him in for a while.